It's been almost 2 weeks since Israel's elections, so not only have the results been finalised, but the parties have also given their preferences to the president, and he announced that he would be giving Benjamin Netanyahu the first chance to form a governing coalition. But first, let's take a step back and get an overview of the results themselves. It ended up being the close election at the top that many predicted, with Netanyahu's Likud and Benny Gantz's Blue and White Party both getting 35 seats. They were the only two parties to get more than 10 seats, the first time this has happened since 1988, and it was Labour's worst ever result, gaining only 6 seats, a big blow to the party that ran the country for the first 30 years. And just as we highlighted a few weeks ago, it was indeed the parties who came very close to the 3.25% threshold that proved the most interesting. The first surprise was Moshe Feiglin's Zehut party, with their strange policy combination, which include a proposition to legalise marijuana and also replace the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem with the Third Temple. Since about week 2 of the campaign, Zehut had consistently polled above the threshold and looked to be getting as many as 6 or 7 seats at one point. He flunked on election day and received just 2.74% of the vote. The other big surprise was that Naftali Bennett and Ayelet Shaked's New Right Party also failed to cross the threshold. This was the biggest shock of all. They'd broken away from the Jewish Home Party and tried, based on what they thought was the strength of their own brand, to build a new party that would eventually take over the leadership of Israel's right wing. Shaked in particular was a very successful but very dangerous justice minister, so it will be interesting to see where that portfolio lands and if the new minister is able to be as effective as she was. No doubt, both Zehut and the New Right had their votes cannibalised by each other and the other right-wing parties. Election day itself played host to a rather disturbing event. During the day, Israeli police discovered that Netanyahu's Likud had placed more than 1,200 hidden cameras at polling stations in Arab cities and towns. The Central Elections Committee issued a judgment on the day, reinforcing the prohibition on filming voters casting their ballots. And even though at one point Likud publicly claimed it had placed the cameras there to ensure a kosher process, the PR firm it hired for the task later bragged on social media that the number of Arab Israelis voting in the election was below 50%, one of the lower in recent years. It would seem that the act of voter suppression in this election is just the other side of the coin to Netanyahu's last-minute 2015 election day stunt, where he warned that because Israel's Arab citizens were voting in big numbers, it was endangering his government. Now that we have the results, with the right-wing bloc gaining 65 seats, it was just a formality for the leaders of the ultra-Orthodox parties, Shas and United Torah Judaism, Avigdor Lieberman's Yisrael Beitenu, Moshe Kachlon's Kulanu, and the union of right-wing parties to all designate Netanyahu as their preferred leader. The question now is, what will they each be able to extract from Netanyahu as part of their coalition agreements? Netanyahu's big prize is the so-called French law, which would effectively provide protection from being charged with crimes while serving as Prime Minister. So what then will the smaller parties get as part of their agreement in order to pass that law? Just a few days before the election, Netanyahu said he would begin to annex parts of the West Bank. Now that carries a cost to Israel's image abroad, not to mention to Israel's democracy at home, but it's been on the wish list of right-wing members of his future coalition for a long time. Perhaps also on the agenda are further assaults on the Supreme Court's powers. Some of the lines that Netanyahu had been unwilling to cross may be on the table now that he has a big ask for himself, the protection from corruption investigations plaguing him. Defence Minister Avigdor Lieberman, whose seats are absolutely necessary for Netanyahu to form government, threw a spanner in the works recently when he said his demand for joining the government would be drafting the ultra-Orthodox into the army, something deeply opposed by the Haredi parties. Whether Netanyahu is able to balance the completely opposite core demands of two significant wings of his future coalition is a big question. It's probably bluster, but Lieberman said he would even be willing to go back to elections in order to get what he wants, which could make things difficult for Netanyahu. We're going to leave it there for now. Lots more to come over the next few weeks as Netanyahu tries to assemble his coalition, and we'll keep you updated on our social media pages. Thanks for watching.